All right, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. As you can see, I've got a cool voice today. I'm not feeling too bad. Um, I'm gonna do this class mainly in English. If you have questions for people who speak Japanese, you can ask me questions in Japanese, so no problem. Um, and I'm gonna record this so that we can put this on the internet and you can see. So the idea behind this class is I've realized that there's a lot of members in the class. We're very good now on lab use. There's a few hiccups, but we have videos, everything's good. But also a lot of us are doing specimen-based science, right? Seibuzi Hyohon. And some of us are doing it for molecular, some of us are doing it for ecology, some of us are doing it for taxonomy. But regardless of why you're using specimens, there are some really basic rules and some really basic knowledge that everyone needs to have. And I think because we all come from different universities, different backgrounds, we know things we don't. So this class, maybe I run it 4 or 5 times. I'm not sure. It will depend on our progress. We can go longer. It's okay. But I want to go through starting with very, very basic stuff and at the end going to pretty complex. And I want to do a little bit of everything. So before we start, I have 2 requests from you. Okay. The first request is please be patient. Some of the classes may be very simple. A lot of the content may be very easy for some of you. But I can guarantee that even inside there will be new things you can learn. So even if today's class is easy, that doesn't mean next class you will understand and know everything. So I'd like you to attend as much as you can so that we all have the same data set. That's number 1. Number 2 is regardless of whether this is online, like today, or if it's in person, as I hope it will be most of the time, I'd really like you to ask questions. Questions and examples are a way for us all to learn. Like, for example, just looking at the top row, Iori's doing some taxonomy, Fiona's doing molecular ecology, Kenta might be doing identification and taxonomy, right? And so these are 2 to 3 different fields, some related and some a little different. So I think everyone asking questions about their research and learning new things will be good. And actually, there's one more request. We'll do 3 things. The other request is please, please, please do not assume. Do not assume that you know everything. I've been doing taxonomy for 20 years. I've described 80 something species and 20 genera, and I'm still learning. Okay. The key to being a scientist is not only knowing what you know, but it's knowing what you don't know and being honest about it. So this is not a contest. Some of you are very experienced taxonomists, and some of you are brand new. And this is not a contest. This is just here to give you guys material and information. So are those 3 things okay? Yeah, okay, cool, cool, cool. So these are the basic rules for the class. So today, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna start with really, really basic stuff. And we're gonna take it from there, but there's going to be a lot of chances for discussion and for questions. So I have made a PowerPoint. Also, the PowerPoints are going to be very basic, nothing fancy, just a little bit of text and then discussion. Okay. So please don't mark my slide presentations as seminar, okay? It's just super simple stuff today. Okay. Let's share this one, share there. Are you guys seeing this okay? Boot camp, class number 1. So these are, today what I want to talk about is some of the stuff's been talked about before, but this is about really what you need to be a researcher. So first things first, hang on, let me just look at my view. I want to get my view panel. I want to make sure I can see everyone. Oh, I can put you guys all up there. Cool. Let me just play with my Zoom a little bit. Oh, yeah, right on. Perfect. Okay. So let's start, okay? Do you have a notebook? Right now. Show me your notebook. Hold it up to the screen. Okay, notebook, notebook, notebook. Who notebook? I can, okay, some people don't have their screen on. I can see some people looking around for a notebook. Oh, Nudi's got one. Some people are like, oh, where's my notebook? Okay, so this is the most important thing, I think, for any scientist, regardless of whether it's specimen based or not. Wow, some people have nice notebooks. Here's my notebook. It's a brand new one. It's fancy. And I've got, this is notes, lots and lots of notes, right? Okay. So these notebooks, what I want to quickly do is I'm going to ask you guys some questions, okay? So how do you take notes? First of all, raise your hand if you use a paper and pen notebook. Please raise your hand. Okay. So, oh, who's not raising their hand? Okay. So I've noticed here, Auguste, Jude, Dan, Chloe, Ifena, Maddie, Sora, or maybe Sora. Auguste, your hand's not raised. How do you take notes, Auguste? Oh, Auguste is raising his hand. Maddie, what about you? How do you take notes?
Depends. Depends on the class.
Oh, but I mean,
Sometimes
like
paper,
in a
sometimes
notebook,
computer.
on the
Sometimes
computer.
notebook, sometimes computer. It depends.
So you don't have a like a
The
logistics
more
system?
the more clear is the person who's talking, the more I tend to use a paper. When someone is very confusing, I need to use a notebook because otherwise everything is messy. But usually I use paper.
Okay. Who else didn't put their hand up? It was pretty chaotic in there. Okay, next. Who else uses a different thing than just a notebook? Does anyone? Anyone use digital?
Yeah, I use the phone sometimes.
Oh, no offense, but I think that's a disaster. Okay, so let's go back. So Fiona, when you use a phone, what do you do with those notes after?
Yeah, I follow up. Like if it was really like usually I use my phone if I haven't got my notebook on me, and then I kind of transfer it, like, you know, if it's really noteworthy, then I would do
Okay,
it.
so you don't just leave it on your phone. If you're somewhere and you need to take notes quickly, you put them on your phone, but then you take those notes and put them in your computer.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're using your phone, but not what I thought you were doing. Okay, that's good. Cool. See, I made an assumption. That's my mistake. So, anyone else? Anyone else? Does anyone do digital? No. Okay, Gishe, is your hand up for a question? No. Roger or Chloe, is your hand up for a question? Or is it just raising your hand? Okay, so the next question
No, sorry.
yeah?
Okay. I use also a schedule book.
A schedule book. Oh, okay. But that's for your schedule, right?
But it's also for tracking what I did. It's also very
Okay. So
scheduled.
like a movement. Yeah, so I've got the same. I'm super old school. I've got a schedule book and I've got a notebook. If I really want to go back and check what I did on a day, I might check here. I usually write when I dive or something really simply in here. I also have dive logs. We'll talk about those in other classes. Okay. But yeah, having this in paper is better than digital, maybe. Unfortunately. Ju, you've got your hand up.
So usually I take notes first via the notebook, and then I usually transfer my notes to an Excel file.
Okay. So as Ju said during his origins talk, if you've got a paper-based and then you've got something that you're doing digitally as well, that's okay. So This is super old school. This is super crazy. It's, what is it? It's 2023. It's Reiwa 5. And I'm asking you if you have a physical notebook. So why am I doing that? Why am I asking you if you have a physical notebook? Why is not just an Excel file? Why is not just on your phone okay?
Science integrity.
Pardon?
Science integrity?
Integrated. Okay, so it's something that people have done over time. So yeah, an integration. But there's a couple other really important reasons. Why else do we do things physically? Chloe-san.
Hi, sorry. To be, I think what Iori meant is more like in terms of ethics because it's harder to falsify.
Ah, integrity is what you meant, not integration. Sorry, I misheard you, Iori-san. Integrity. Yes, absolutely correct. These notebooks that you have here are your protection against anyone making claims against you. If you write a paper and let's say I write a paper and Chloe says, I don't believe Sensei wrote that paper. He wasn't collecting polychaetes. And I could show my notebook and I could go back to the date where I had the information and I could say, here's information. I could show this old schedule book and show this as well. So in other words, digitally, you can make and cut and paste and fake things. On paper, this is your insurance that you did the science. So what I mean is, if something bad happens or if someone makes a claim on you on something, if you have a notebook, not loose leaf. Do you guys know loose leaf? So I'll explain this in English and Japanese. Some people, they take notes on a single piece of paper and then they put the paper into a folder, right? That's not good. You need to have a book with pages bound. seihon mitai na hon de sono junban desu ne. If you have your pages in order in a notebook, and it's like last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and there's hundreds and hundreds of notes, it's very hard to fake. No one's going to accuse you. If they really wanted to, you could even date. You could do isotope analysis. You could figure out how old the paper is, right? But if someone accuses you of false science or making things up, that's your career. It's the end of your career. This is protection against that. Okay. So I notice sometimes some people come into my office and I'm talking and they're taking notes on their phone. If you're putting that on paper immediately after, okay. If you're not, that's really dangerous. Sometimes some people come in and I say, do you have a notebook? And people say no. That's also super, super dangerous. So as much as possible, if you don't have to have something fancy. This was my Christmas present last year. A simple 200 yen notebook from the co-op from Seikyo is more than enough. But it should be in order, okay? Chloe, is your hand still up or do you have a comment or question?
No, sorry, it's still up.
It's okay, don't worry. Okay, so that's the first thing. When you're taking notes, I know Ju likes to put his in Excel. Do you guys have any other hints or anything that you do? Any other cool hints? I've got a couple, but I just want to ask if anyone has something cool for taking notes. Yeah, Gishe.
I was using overleaf. I mean, you can design your layout and then you just like add just a bit of code, very simple code, and then you can have like the notebook that you want. And I was using that only at the beginning until people like I heard I think it was Marilyn's video. It's like,
Yeah.
no, this is so bad. And then
So I think digital's fine, but I think at the least, you need to have paper as well. I'd say that's kind of my advice. Like I'll draw arrows and use different colors, and I like to make my notes as beautiful as possible. My writing's not beautiful, but I do like to sort of, like yesterday, see, I took 8 pages of notes and I used different colors to emphasize different things. But You don't need to read it often. Some people do, but you know, your notebooks are your life as a scientist. Anyone else, any cool things they do before I go on to the next topic? We're going to talk more about notebooks, but before the next thing. We're good. Okay.
I have a different
Yeah.
book for different projects.
Okay. And I know Maria Bigger also does that. I would avoid it personally because if your projects are short and you have a lot of different books, it's easier to lose and it's easier to fake. But what you could do is you could write I mean, we'll talk about that after. We'll talk about data backup too. It's up to you. Personally, I would not. I would keep everything in one. But that's your choice. I used to do by project, but I switched about 15 years ago. But up to you. There's good and bad, right? The next thing is, come on. Yeah, Chloe-san.
No, I just have a question, but it's just curious question.
No, that's okay. Curious questions are the best.
I just wanted to know if like it ever happened to you or like someone around you that it was really becoming like your notebook saved you.
Yes, right now. I'm on a paper that I am writing with some other researchers about anemones and anemone fish. And there is a team from the United States that is claiming that we stole their data.
Oh, wow.
And we didn't. We independently came up with the results. We have data, we have emails, exchanges between us, and we have notes that we did everything separately. So right now I'm actually using it. But this is at a big journal, and these are people's reputations. So yes, right now, my notebook from 2015 is saving my butt.
Okay,
this is the first time it's happened to me, but it probably will not be the last.
Okay.
Generally, Japan is usually pretty peaceful, but for Japanese students or people who've been in Japan a long time, there was the STAP cell scandal about 8 to 10 years ago. A young female researcher became a super rising star, did all these cool experiments showing multipotent like stem line germ cells. And they realized that she had faked most of her data and she didn't have any notebooks. And so the nail in the coffin was, they said, show us your data. And she had no data, nothing anywhere. And so as a scientist, it's super obvious she was faking. The public is like, oh, you know, maybe she just was unorganized or blah, 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 but so bad. Okay?
Okay.
Good question.
Did answer my question.
Yeah, that was perfect. That was cool. Okay. So next question, equally important. Where do you keep your old notebooks? Chirp, chirp, chirp. Okay.
Always with me.
With you? Where? Like in your house?
It's in my backpack, always.
Wow. Okay. How many old
I
books do
only
you
have
have
two
right now?
notes.
Not so
Two.
many? Only two. Okay.
Two.
If you have a really thick book, yeah, maybe one a year or something. I think I make about 4 or 5 notebooks a year. And I've got them all, like I've got my old ones in a safe, actually. My ones from the last 2 or 3 years, sometimes they're in my office. Chloe, where do you keep your old notebooks? Are they in France? Are they underwater? Are they in Subnautica? Where are they? Or is Chloe's hands not up? Maybe
Sorry, yeah, no, it's still not up, but I keep my notebooks, they're on my desk.
They're on your desk. Ju, what about you? Where do you keep your stuff? Oh, Ju's hands down. Okay.
My old notebook. So I bought a box last year from Amazon. It's like it has a mini dehumidifier. So aside from my gadgets, I also put my notebooks there.
Yeah, no, especially in Okinawa or in like the Philippines, anywhere that's humid, keeping your books in a sort of semi-dry place might be good. Honestly, I never look at my old notes anymore unless I'm looking for specimen information sometimes. But usually, like this current problem I'm having, I had to go find my notebooks from 8 years ago. And I'm really glad that I keep them in my office. It's always dry and they're in a safe. So long term, this is up to you, but thinking about how long you keep your notebooks, where you keep them, do you photocopy them or not? Some people photocopy. Does anyone I don't. I should probably. Roger does, yeah? You photocopy your notes. Okay, super important I think it's good to have backup. And this is the problem with paper. It's not digitally backed up. So you could scan, you could do something. But when you start, you think, just notes. You know, I remember burning my notes after university class sometimes as a student, bad student. But the longer your career in science is, the more notes you generate and the more valuable they become. So definitely think about where you're going to back them up or where you're going to keep them, okay? Camera case is cool too. How do you back them up? That was the next question. And we discussed this. Okay, I'm not going to talk more about notebooks, but if you pull out a phone in my office tomorrow, I might panic. Does anyone else have any notebook basic record keeping questions before I go on to the next thing? Easy, right? All right, cool. Let's go to the next one. Specimen lists. All right. Do you have a specimen list? You're all working with specimens, right? Iori, yes. Fiona, yes. Kenta, yes. Roger, yes. Nuri, yes. Ayaka, yeah, kind of. Chloe. Augustin. Okay, tell me about your specimen list, guys. Let's hear from some new people. Okay, Kurt, tell me about your specimen list. Oh, Kurt, I can't hear you.
Oh,
I can hear.
I guess can I talk here?
Yeah. I can hear you now. No
So
worries.
sorry, there's a problem with my audio.
No worries.
With regards to my specimen list,
Yeah.
I usually make like an Excel file, Sensei. So like the current like names, and then I make like what are the current like localities and like geographical distribution. So I just do that like that one.
So do you have a
I
specimen
guess
list of each
okay.
specimen then?
I need to leave. What?
Oh.
Do you have a,
He's asking the questions.
Because I have my oh, okay. No, sorry, shit. Oh no, shit.
So
right,
everyone's wearing the headphones, yeah. You can
Okay,
hear.
we'll come back. Kurt, can you hear us or not? This is like a seance.
He's coming back. He's coming back.
Oh, Kurt entered the waiting room. Okay, I'll let him in. Okay, cool. Hang on. He's coming in. Okay.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
No worries, you're back. We can hear you. Okay. And so do you have a list? Do you have an entry for each specimen then?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Who else? Who else has Excel file for their specimen list? Roger, Iori, Fiona, Kenta. Most people have Excel file. Okay. Who does not have Excel file for specimen list? Who does something different? No. Okay. So usually I write my sampling. We'll talk more about sampling in another class. This is just more like basics today, okay? But I'll write my sampling information in here, and then I will take the information from my notebook and I will type it into the Excel file. So I have an Excel file with everything, but if I wanted to go back, I could go back to each day that I sampled and get the information again. The nice thing about Excel, you can, yeah, and I saw you've got a question, Guichet. I'll get there in a second. The nice thing about Excel, you can move things around, you can organize and track very easily, you can add information, you can back it up. But again, having something in your notebook as well to go back to is a good way to double proof, triple proof. Guichet, question.
Yes, I'm still struggling with associating the specimen list with the pictures I'm taking. Because it becomes like a lot of pictures, sometimes
a lot of data.
Yeah, a lot of data. And then like if you like, what do you put in the specimen list? Like the name of the file, the name of the folder, where do you have the folder with the pictures? Like you move the folder and then like you get lost.
So that's a good point, actually, is how do you, and Disha, this is no offense to you, I think of myself when I do this, how to make your specimen list idiot proof, basically, right? Because you have collection information, you have photographs, you have a lot of associated data with all of your samples, right? And so I have a system, it might not be the best, but it works for me. When I take photos every day, a lot of underwater photographs. And so when I come back, I write my specimen information in my notebook, and I also write the file names of the photos by hand, super old school. But then I also write the depth and the location and everything. So I have it in my notebook. And then in the Excel file, I also have the photograph file names, P925386.jpg, something like that. Then what that means is I can search the file name on my computer or on my hard disk or on my backup or on my Dropbox to find that photo if I need to. And I also have it in here. And I also have a dive log where I've linked all my dives, where I have all my dives with the dates. So, and I have a specimen naming system with the dive of each day. So everything is connected. So if I need to find the information, I can find it. Some people get really fancy. Some people make like hyperlinks to the photos in their Excel file. This is great until you move your photos or you buy a new computer or something. So you want to make it convenient. You want to make it easy, but you want to make it idiot proof. Because no one remembers last year. I don't remember yesterday, right? Next thing, one more thing regarding this. In your specimen list, what information do you put? You guys can just say it out loud. I'm going to type them in the chat.
Date.
Date, yeah. Date of collection, yeah.
Collection site.
Site, yeah. Depth, yeah. For a lot of us, we need depth, yeah. Yeah, who collected if not you? So a collector, yeah.
Initial ID. Initial ID.
Initial ID, yeah. Initial ID, yeah.
I also write if I started to work on this data, for example, if I extract the DNA, if I amplified, if I
Okay, so
sequenced
that's tracking.
at the end of the
that's like
list.
an added specimen. That's a little, okay, we'll talk about that after, but yeah, you can use your Excel file for more than one thing. Okay. But what about for like a basic
There are
specimen?
any associated organisms?
Sometimes, but you might want to put them, as separate specimens with separate numbers that are linked to that number somehow. Yeah, the creature's name. Yeah, good one. Kenta said the same. Notes, there's always a space for notes at the end. I put the photo file names in there. Site, I might put the GPS if I can get it. Latin long is really important. Get it from Google Maps after if you don't have it in the field. You can even plus minus it a little bit. You want all the taxonomy in there. So not only the creature's identification, but you want the higher taxonomy. I usually go from phylum all the way down to species. Boom, 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 boom. You can do that after, right? Not on the label in your specimen list. Date, depth, notes. Yeah. Oh, one more, really important.
Fixation.
Preservative. Pardon, Chloe?
I said fixation.
Yeah. How did you fix it? Is it in ethanol? Is it in formalin? Is it in 70% ethanol, 90% ethanol, 95, 99, RNA later, frozen, dried? There's many ways that we can fix specimens. Okay. There, I put that into chat. Okay, cool. Okay, so we talked about how do you make your specimen list? Okay. One quick thing, specimen numbers. How do you guys number your specimens? What do you do? There's no rules, but so Kurt says he uses a locality and a number. Okay. That's one way to do it.
I use a code personally.
Yeah. What's your code?
It's letter. The letters are in order. The first letter corresponds to the side. The second letter corresponds to the thing. What I'm doing with it, which is usually barcoding or morphology. And third letter is the habitat, and fourth is the numbers that replicate. And so I'm like it's univocate because the letters has never repeated, and I have a list of what letter corresponds to what. It works pretty well. It's really immediate.
Okay, cool. No, that's the thing is, so there's two things you need to consider when you're making your numbering system. Just like Mari said, you need to have a system that you understand, that you are not going to make mistakes. The other thing is, I think you need to have a system that you can explain, that's very clear, that other people can understand, especially if you retire or you decide to become a professional DJ, or you send specimens to museums or whatever. Having a system that at least you can explain to other people, this means this, and they can follow up, is important. I'm going to type in the chat, if we went diving today and I collected some, and we did 3 dives, and I collected something on dive number 3, I might give it this number, JDR 231129317. There's no site information. There's nothing in there. It's my name. You know who this is. You've got the date, 2023, November 29th. You have that it's dive number 3, and it's the 17th specimen of the day. This way, with my dive log, I can go back to the site. I can find the site in my dive log or my specimen list. And so this is my identifier number. I mean, everyone has their own system, but to me, this never fails. This has never failed me. I've always, even if I can't find my notebook or I can't find the photo, one way or another, I can track everything down and get the information I need. But whatever works for you, go with it, for sure. How do you manage it? Okay, Excel file, that's a good way to go. Photos, I put my photos into a folder for each site and put it on my computer, and it backs up automatically to the cloud. I also have external disks where I put all my photos and back them up. But I'm going to tell you a horror story, okay? You guys probably know this guy, Joey Di Battista. I've told many of you this story before. He works on eDNA. He used to work on sharks. And he was writing his PhD, and I was with him. No, he was a postdoc, actually. He was in Malaysia, and we're at a conference, and he got his bag stolen with his computer in it. And he went back to Hawaii, where he was working. He had 3 hard disks with his data backed up because he didn't have a paper notebook. He only had Microsoft Word files. And his 3 backup disks did not work. He lost between 2 to 4 years of data, depending on the project. So it happens. And it happens to, I've never had it happen to me yet. I've had my computer die, but I've always had backups and specimen list backups. But specimen lists are super important. So make sure you're backing that up, giving them to friends, doing whatever you need to do, whatever system you have, make sure you're backing these up. Okay. Questions, anyone? Not bad. Okay, let's go. Backups there. What information do you include? We already talked about that. Specimen numbers. We've discussed this in questions and answers. Okay, cool. Data, it's the same thing. So backing it up, right? The cloud or hard disks in the humidifier, whatever. As we've discussed before, I just told you the disaster story, so you guys know that, and we've discussed in Q&A. Okay, this is the other important thing. We'll talk about going to museums. We'll talk about working with collaborators. But if you do not have a notebook, if you do not have a specimen list and management system, and if you do not have a backup system, start today. From today, I expect you all to be starting this at least from today if you don't. Okay. It's never too late to start. Don't worry. It's just like fitness training and everything else, right? Says the sick guy at home. But please start today. The other thing is, as we are working with other labs, we're working with museums, we've had people go on deep sea cruises. We've got a lot of chances to collaborate. I have a lot of specimens from other museums. If you don't have these things, people will not consider you a serious specimen-based researcher. This is super basic stuff. Today's very basic. If you show up to the museum and you're like, I don't have a notebook, that's like showing up to class without a pencil or something, right? It's super bad. So make sure these things, at least the notebook and the specimen list when you're going places, you have, but also how you're backing up your data. These are basic skills that all specimen-based biologists need to have. Okay, cool. I want to talk a little more, because this is kind of really basic entry-level stuff, and I want to talk a little more about specimens and science. So my throat's sort of there. I think I can talk another 20 minutes or so, no problem. Do you guys have any questions about this basic stuff before I go to the next topic? Daijoubu desu ka? Okay, cool. Identification and taxonomy. So I think, Iori, are you doing taxonomy or identification? I'm going to ask everyone. Just one or two words, super quick. Identification, taxonomy.
Yeah, both.
Both. Fiona.
Ecology and.
Are you doing identification or taxonomy?
I guess some identification, yeah.
Yeah, identification. Kenta.
はい。
はい。
ボスだと思います。
Both, yes. Good job, Roger. Both?
Both, yeah.
Both. Kairi-san? Tough question.
日本語でお願いしてもいいですか？すいません。
Identification, dote, taxonomy, bunri. Which are you doing? どっちやってる？両方？
どっちもまだ、どっちもまだやってないです。
Okay, from now, not yet, she says. Nuria, I know in our lab you're helping us out, but I know you have done lots of science. Is it both? Identification? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, no worries. Ayaka.
Identification.
Definitely. Guichet?
I would say taxonomy and delineation.
Yeah, well, delineations, taxonomy, and delineations, identification. You're doing both. Soro-san.
はい。
Hi.
あ
Dote, bunri, or both?
Only identification.
Yeah, identification. Okay. A goose?
I did both, Sensei.
Right now, both?
In Indonesia, I mean.
Oh, no, but current research is more identification.
Currently, yeah.
Okay.
For now, identification.
Yeah. Dan wa?
I will do both, I think.
Yeah. Right now, identification, but from now, both. Okay. Kurt? Actually, we'll ask some other questions to other people. I know Kurt's has done identification, going to do both, right?
Yeah, maybe both.
Yeah. Okay. Etc. No, okay. From Chloe on. Oh, Chloe, you want to tell you're doing both, right?
Hi, both.
Both. Jua?
Currently, it's more on ID.
Yeah, ID. Okay. Your ID, Daito?
多分 ID になると思います。
ID. Ifena?
ID.
Okay.
Identification.
Cool, cool. Thank you. Emmeline.
Identification.
Identification. And Mari? Hopefully both, right?
Yeah, mostly identification and trying to do taxonomy.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to do a lot of taxonomy discussion later on in other classes, but identification, and we're all doing some identification, is part of specimen science. And particularly for people with molecular backgrounds, and particularly people that work only in the lab, I often find that people forget that identification is actually part of specimen-based science. And when you read papers for people who don't know about specimen-based science, it's really obvious and really clear. And so I want to talk a little bit about this here. So if you're only concerned with identifying what you have or what you're working with, this is identification, right? So the basics of identification, right? This is simple. What are you identifying? What animals are you looking at? How are you identifying it? Where are your specimens? What literature did you use? So you need to think about this not only for when you are doing identification, but when you are writing your thesis or a paper. This information, even if you're only doing identification, this information should be in your paper. For example, looking at all of us here, Agus is going to be doing a lot of eDNA. That's a lot of sequences, right? Fiona is going to be generating a lot of molecular data. This is also mainly sequences. But your sequences are based on specimens, whether it's water or whether it's collected coral. And so you need to explain, for example, for Fiona, not only, oh, we collected Acropora, you need to say, how do you know they're Acropora? What books, what papers did you use to identify them? And then also, if you have those little tiny specimens, where are they? Who's keeping them? What's their number in the museum? Because this information is the same as a notebook or as data generated from ecology. This is, you guys know down here at the bottom here, replicability. もう一回同じような実験ができるような情報まで書けないといけない。This is something we all learn for Kenta and Dan and Sora and Daito, right? 生物学実験 and Kairi, first year. All of that basic information is here. A goose, even if you're using water, if the water, where's the water? If the water's gone, where's the DNA kept? Who's keeping it, etc. If you did identification with sequences only, what's the threshold? What's the cutoff? This is the same. So even if you're not a taxonomist, you need this information in your paper. This is the number one problem that I see with papers when I'm reviewing. Is people say, oh, we went out, we collected some soft coral, we looked at their bacteria, it was really cool. I'm like, okay, how did you identify the soft coral? Oh, our friends told us. You need to say, you need to reference, you need to tell people, we use this book, we use this paper, right? And then also, oh, great, well, I want to double check, where are your specimens? Oh, we threw them away. End of the world, right? So your specimens and all the information you have, that's also equally important, okay? Before I go to the next slide, questions here? 質問とかわからない点とか. It's okay? Okay. So, all right, we're going to go in reverse order here. どうしましょう? どうしましょう? We'll start with someone easy. Kenta, 申し訳ない. Kenta, what phylum do you work on?
What? What?
Phylum. Mon.
ああ。門だから、門だから、カチュアモンの一個上
Okay,
です
next
ね。
question. What about Amon? Amon. Subphylum.
だから、
Okay, Kenta, next question. Family.
ファミリーは、ファミリーまで下がった。
Okay, it's okay, Kenta. Perfect. Good job, good job.
アクチニアですね。多分。
Actinia, family? Okay, so this is super, bless you.
オーダーです。
This is super, super simple. But what I want to tell you guys is this. You need to know the taxonomy of your animals. It only takes 10 minutes to remember. But you need to know from phylum down to wherever you're working. Maybe if you're Maddie, it stops at phylum, Nematoda, right? But you need to know the taxonomy of the animals you're on. So right now, in the chat, everyone, I want you to type, no looking at worms, no cheating. If you don't know, just say, I don't know. This is part about being honest, right? Please write from phylum, subphylum, order, class, or class, order, family, genus, species. Write down what you're working on. Scientific names, please. Dan, I'm very sorry. Just write a couple examples. You've got millions. Ichibu dake kaite yo, Dan. Kurt, Nidaria, Anthozoa, subclass Hexacrelia, order Antipatheria. Okay, Kurt's in there. 10 points for Kurt. Annelida polychaeta, Arantia, Phylocaducea, Silidae, Roger, Anthozoa, Hexacrelia, Zoantheria, Mollusca, Gaster. Well, so some people know what they're doing. Wow. Nidaria, Anthozoa, Octocrelia, Malaca, Succosa, Alcunaceae. Yeah, Mari stops at Nematoda. That's right. Okay. And so I'm not doing this to be mean to you guys, but this takes 10 minutes, right? To know the taxonomy of your animals. But you need to know the taxonomy of your animals really clearly. If you're not sure, or okay, I know it's Octocrelia, but I don't know what that is. What? Nidaria, Anthozoa, Octocrelia, Sclerosinaceae, Helioporta, Nanipora. Wow. Nidaria, Anthozoa, Hexacrelia, Scleractinia, Pulsiporidae. Okay. Yeah, some people know. But if you don't know, for example, Kyrie's now just switched to Palithoa. Maybe she might want to learn, right? Or maybe I'm trying to look. Sorta's not sure what he's studying yet, or Ifena's working on a bunch of different animals. And so for people like Ifena, or for I'm trying to think who else is doing lots. Dan, you have a lot of different groups. But even knowing the basics, this is a genus, this is a family, this is a phylum. This is important. If you don't know, as I've written here, the best place to check is worms, World Registry of Marine Species. They have good information. When you are taking notes, or maybe the first time you write something in a paper, you can use the authority. I underlined authority because I'm going to change this. Oh, Nidaria. Oh, Kenta, good Japanese. Anamushi, mon. Oh, 六歩三語、八歩三語、最近アモンになってきた。Check worms, Kenta. No worries. Okay. But what I was going to say is, I'm going to talk in another class about authorities. They're not references. But when you are first doing a paper, the first time you mention a scientific name, maybe not a phylum, but like a family or a genus or a species, use the authority once. Another crazy thing is, and I saw a question, Gish, I'll get there. I think even though an authority is not a reference, it's good to include authorities in your reference list, if that makes sense. Authorities are not references, but you should give them credit and citations. So some journals, Science and Nature, maybe have strict rules, but most journals, they're totally fine with that. Oh, Dan, okay, yeah, Bryozoa question, yeah. Porphyra, Demospongia, yes, Sayaka, exactly. Some of us, it's, we don't know, right? Because it's tough. Gishe, question.
Yes, okay, now it's two questions. Because you said that we should add the authorities on a reference list.
Yeah.
But you say it's not a reference.
No.
So do we add it as a reference in the reference list?
Yeah.
Because in what we publish, some of the reference I add as authorities, it didn't recognize it.
No, because the
they,
reference authorities are often very old, and journals are only going to find stuff after 1995 anyway. That doesn't mean they're any less valid or legal or fine. I've got references from 1768 in some of my papers. That's totally fine. No problem.
Okay. Second question.
Yeah.
About the adding the authorities in the paper, how does the abstract work?
Yeah, you could put it in the, if you're working on taxonomy, include a authority. If you're working only on identification, don't worry. Do you understand the difference? Identification is like you're doing ecology or you're doing molecular diversity. You're doing something that's not directly related to taxonomy, but you want to identify your animals. That's not taxonomy focused. That's just marine science, right? In that sense, I wouldn't, the main, you want to identify your animals correctly, but the issue is not the taxonomy. So I wouldn't bother with an authority in an abstract. But if you are talking about new species and or genus designations between different genera, and you're talking about taxonomy, authorities become important.
Okay, but if you're working on, let's say, on one family, right? And I want to, I don't know, I take pictures of all the heliopodi that I find, and I'm doing a paper about this, and I say in the abstract.
Which type of paper are you doing? Are you doing a taxonomy paper? Or are you doing an ecology paper? Totally different.
Okay.
You see what I mean? Are there questions about the identity of the species or not? If you're just using the identification to generate a unit, don't worry. If you're doing new taxonomy and things, that's taxonomy.
There is taxonomy, yes.
Sorry. Here, identification and taxonomy are very similar, but they're not the same, right? Do you follow what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I try to because I have an example, but I try to make it more general so everybody can
Use
understand.
Use your example.
Okay, we were talking about the Onkide yesterday.
Oh, cool!
Right?
I like Onkides.
And in the abstract, we were writing the genus with the authorities, but there are like other species, other genus apart from Peronia that we were looking at, and we were kind of adding, but it's not the main interest. So I said like,
if the main interest is revising the taxonomy of the genera of Onchididae, then I would include those in an abstract. But if the main focus is just more discussing diversity or evolution or biogeography, you want identification, but not taxonomy. And I wouldn't worry about authorities.
At least in the abstract.
Yeah.
Or in general.
The first mention, it's always good. I think it's good practice at first mention.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
I think so, yeah.
Guichet, and for everyone, the other thing is some journals have rules. Some journals are like, you must use an authority, and some journals are like, you cannot use an authority. Like, so, but usually the journals that say you cannot use an authority are like Science and Nature and high impact, sort of common mass readership journals, basically. Most journals are completely fine with authority at first mention. Almost all, actually. And it actually shows scientists that, okay, even if you're doing, say, molecular ecology or eDNA, it shows that you have a good background in naturalist thinking as well. Okay. Other questions or comments or anything on identification versus taxonomy? So this is one thing I hope you remember, super important, right? Including all this information. Worms is good. So what we're going to do from now in other classes later on is I've got a whole list of things. I want to talk about visiting museums, examining specimens, labels. I want to talk about ICZN, which is the code that governs naming animals. We're going to talk about different types of specimens. We're going to talk about how to redo and check taxonomy, talk about authorities and the rules. We'll talk about the rules of describing a species and how to describe a species and what's good and what's bad. We'll talk maybe a little bit about naming species. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. So I imagine there's at least 4 or 5 more classes. I'm going to do these classes as usually about an hour because there's a lot of information. And especially today, my voice is dying. And then I'm going to put these on YouTube. I'll make them public under a channel. We'll call this like bootcamp channel, so that just like the lab use videos, you can use them all and practice. Okay. Before we finish, guys, any questions? I know it's super simple, but some important stuff. Ju-san, go ahead.
Sensei, if we have time, maybe next time, is it okay if you show us like mainly for the data management, for example, how you really do it? Like show us in your computer how you track like the pictures, how you connect it with
I
your
could
other
probably show
files.
you right now here, actually. I can give you an example here. Hang on. Let me see. Okay.
Masterclass of making it idiot proof.
Okay, I'll show you how this idiot barely survives. Okay. Hang on. So right here, come on. Share screen. Just a second. I'm waiting for something to start up here. I'm going to take you through the 4 layers of my idiot proofness. There we go. Okay. Wow. Wait a second. I got to reshare it. No, I don't want to share that. I want to share screen. Numbers. Okay. Okay, first thing. You guys right here are looking at, this is my dive log. You might think it's silly, you might think it's crazy, but this actually really helps me. I have logged all the dives that I have done. It has the maximum depth, it has the time, it has the purpose. I also write my buddies down, the people I was diving with, because if there's a chance that I forgot something or lost something, they may have information. Okay. So, and I write down the date, and then you can see all the different dives. Look at these Zuno dives. These Zuno dives are crazy. Look at that. 118, 111, 145, 144. So long. But this is the first layer. This is keeping track of where you were and what you were doing. Okay. Super simple. I don't use any hyperlinks or anything because my computer, I'm always moving my files, or maybe I'm getting a new computer, but I've got it really simple here. I use numbers instead of Excel, but it doesn't matter. Sometimes I also have some notes over here. Look, I did a dive with Anjay. We had dynamite. That's fantastic. Good job. I might put a project name in there or something. But this is just a really simple way to keep track of what I did when. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 would be, and I don't think I have any in my current notebook here, but I would have in my notebook when I went diving, I would have a list of the specimen, the preliminary ID. I would have the photo number on here, etc. I would have that in here, really simple. I would then take that and put that into Excel file. Number 3.
Sorry, Sensei.
Yeah.
Just a yes or no question quickly. This Excel file is only digital, right? You don't.
Excel file is digital, but I have each individual entry of specimen in my notebook as well from the day I collected it. If I wanted to, I could reconstruct the Excel file if I lost it. Okay? Okay. Number 3, and I see Kenta, but after this, Kenta, I'll get to you. Number 3 is, let's go Let's go here. Hang on. Okay, hang on. I'll go back to share screen. Share screen. Finder, recents. Okay. You're not looking at my Finder, right? I might go to JDR backups. I might go to papers. I've got all my papers in here. So I organize all my research by, I just call them papers. This is all the stuff that's in preparation. Boom, look at all these different things, okay? These are all folders with different research topics. There's 631 of them. But for example, I also put trips where I haven't combined them in here. For example, Akajima, 2023-11. You go in here, and then I've taken the photos off my SD card, and I have put them into a folder. In this folder, I'm going to open them. I'll stop sharing that, and I'll show you the photos. Hang on, get rid of that. Share screen, put this over here. Let's go here. Let's go to share screen again. Desktop 2. Okay, you guys are now looking at my entire desktop, right? Which one are you looking at? Is it photos or is it pictures of you?
In entire desktop.
Picture.
Photos?
Yeah.
With photos.
Here that I'm moving, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So, okay, I've got just, these are all my dive photos, right? But usually what I do when I'm diving is I might find something. This was a dive, I think, with, this was maybe with Kira. If I see something cool, I'll take some photos, and then I take a photo of my dive computer after all the time. I do photo, 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 dive computer, photo, 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 dive computer. You could go reverse, dive computer, photo, photo, but I always sort of know what depth that I saw these animals at. Let's see. For example, on this dive, I collected some Palithoa. Oh, look, Dan, all the bryozoans. Ah! Did I collect anything? No, I collected these. These are the ones that Nuria sent yesterday to the National Museum. These are crinoids, maybe an undescribed species, probably Nesometra. But I've got a bunch of photos of them in situ. I've got the bag that I put them in for later in the day so I could sort it out, and the depth. You can also, with your photos, the information go. You can get the information. For example, I'll write this down in my notebook, this number here, but you can also get, for example, come on, computer's acting slow right now. For each photo, you have the time that it was taken and everything. You have all this associated metadata with every single one of your photos. So I know which dive it was on. I know the location, I know the depth, and from the metadata, I even know the time. And so these are all backing each other up, same date, same depth, same time. So you're making everything replicable, backupable, if that makes sense, right? And then the last thing I'll do is I'll try to show you guys. Oh, let's see, which specimen should we do? I'm looking here. Wow, maybe it's in here. Accepted. So they're in symbionts. Which paper? Oh wait, we can go back here. We go back here.
Sensei, just as an example, can you go to Ama Beach 2015?
Yeah, well, let me see. I think that's in my Dropbox. I don't think it's on here.
Okay.
But we'll check. Amami, Amaksa. Let's go by kind. Ama Beach, 2015-11. Oh, there it is. Ha, see? It's there. Okay, it's on Dropbox. It's looking like. Oh, maybe. Oh, it's an iPhoto. Oh, but yeah, see, okay. Look, I could open this photo. So this is 8 years ago. It's on the cloud. It's taking forever to re-download the photo. Come on. Oh, here it is. Out of focus. But yeah, I've got all those photos from 2015. They're accessible. So yeah. The last thing I wanted to show you though is I wanted to show you maybe we do the Javier, Wamswantheria. Here we go. Here's a specimen list.
Sensei, quick question.
Yeah. Let's let Kenta go first.
So
Is Kenta's question quick? Or is
okay.
Kenta's question different? Betsuno This isn't great.
別の質問です。
Okay. Sorry, this is Javier. This is not the right one. Oh, come on. Okay, yeah, Ju, go ahead.
So those photos from Ama Beach, you already changed the file names?
I don't change the file names. I use the original file
Okay.
names. I never changing file names is
Okay.
crazy. It takes forever.
Okay.
I
Thanks.
never change the file names. I mean, you can if you want, but I think that's just like a lot of work. Where did it go? Hang on. I'm trying to find a specimen file for you guys to use. I need this one. Maybe this one. So I'm just trying to find a good Excel file to show you guys. Let's see. Excel. Oh yeah, this is good. Can you guys see it? Is it super small?
Yep.
Okay. So we have there, go up to the top. We had dive, locality, container, date of collection. Someone spelled Antipathozoanthus wrong. Ziploc number. So a lot of field information, specimen numbers, depth. Then we've got our identification. We've got species. We've got images. So these are our file names in here. It looks like these are all the Antipathozoanthus that I collected from the Maldives. And then are they in ethanol? Are they in formalin? And then, so this is kind of a working file, but it's got most of the information here. To be honest, it's got the date, it's got the depth. I would like it now. This is, I guess, this is probably 7 years old. I would like these to have more locality information and more GPS information, but this is just a basic. I'll find a better template and send it to you guys. I think I've given it to Chloe and Yori like 5 years ago or so. But something like that. I don't keep all of my specimens in a single file because there's about 10,000 now. I probably should. I should probably make a master file. I usually keep them by project or topic. Okay. Kenta, どうぞ。
はい。そのワームズについての質問なんですけど、ワームズって、こう、新しい種とかが出た時とかって、こう、更新があんまり、新しいのになるまでが遅いじゃないですか。
それはケースバイケース。めっちゃ早い分離群ごと。
じゃあイソギンチャクは遅い方なのかなと思うんですけど、そういう時ってやっぱり、例えば、イソギンチャクのやつで見ると、まだマクファデンの、論文で出てた、火中港が火中アモンに上がったっていうのが、全然まだ反映されてなくて、
Okay.
そういう時はどうしたらいいですか？
Okay. Kenta's got a super good question. I'm going to translate it in English. I'll answer in simple English. And Kenta, if you don't understand, then I can explain in Japanese. Kenta's question is, when you go to worms, for example, sometimes things are updated and sometimes they're not. For example, Octocoralia is very quickly updated right now in worms, but Actinaria, the anemones are still not updated with the subphylum, for example. And so sometimes our new species take time. This is a taxonomic group by taxonomic group. There are editors for each group of animals. And so some groups are updated quickly and some groups are updated slowly. Not all groups are 100% complete. It's probably about 95% complete. It's still better than anything else out there, but it's not necessarily perfect. But if you, I will share a screen again. Hang on, let's go here. Go there. I'm going to share a screen here. Share screen. Okay, hang on, share screen. Google Chrome. Okay, you guys should be seeing my Google Chrome. Worms, not the worms, but this worms. If you go here, maybe let's search for Intacmea quadricolor. So this is an anemone, for example. You've got all your information here. Maybe this is correct, maybe it's not correct. Sometimes things get updated, sometimes they don't. But if there is a problem, or if you want something updated, or if you have a question, well, you can see who changed it here. These are the people who changed it. But there is an editor. Where did the editor go? Okay, here's the editors here. So Daphne Fauchin was the editor of Anemone. She has passed away, but there's E. Rodriguez here. And so you could, from the Worms homepage, I've just got to find where it would go. Gosh, look at all this information for one species. You could go to Anthozoa hexacralea. You could go to Actinaria. So will I have the editors there? Berthuxima. Nah. Okay, we'll just go to editors. And you remember the name Rodriguez, so you could go down here all the way to R. Right here. And you can click on her name. And it's got her email address here. You cannot copy and paste it because they don't want any spam, but you can look at this and type it into your email. You can email the editors and ask them. No problem. I wouldn't do this incessantly. もう毎度毎度ちっちゃい質問があれば聞いた方がいいというわけではないけど、if you think something needs updating or there's a new species or something that's not in worms, you could contact the editor for sure. Kent, is that okay?
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。Okay. Any other questions? Are we good for now on basic stuff? Okay. We're going to try to run this about once a week. And I think from next week, let me just look at all the topics. I think from next week, we're going to start talking about, maybe we'll talk about specimen collection. I know I've already talked about this a bit. Specimen collection and labels. And then maybe from there, we'll go to collections and museums or something like that. After that, I think we'll get into the taxonomy and the details on ICZN and describing species. Does that sound okay, everyone? Okay, cool. I'm gonna go have a nap before lab meeting and seminar. But I'll see you guys in the lab meeting and seminar. There's not too many announcements today. But see you guys in a bit, okay? Okay, and I'll put this up on YouTube for everyone. Otsukare-sama desu. Ethan, any questions? Are you okay? All right. Thanks, everyone.